The barn door creaked open like a gunshot in the still evening air, and Caleb's rough hand gripped my wrist, pulling me inside with a force that made my heart slam against my ribs. "Aaron, you gotta see this," he whispered, his voice thick with something I couldn't place. Regret? Maybe, or hunger. But before I could ask, his lips crashed into mine, tasting of whiskey and secrets that would unravel everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and the ache of wanting what you shouldn't. In that split second, as Hayes scratched my back and the world outside faded to nothing, I realized this wasn't just a kiss. It was the beginning of the end, the spark that would burn down the only home I'd ever had. I was 18 that summer, fresh out of high school in the flat, unforgiving sprawl of rural Nebraska, where the cornfields stretched like endless accusations under a sky too big for secrets. My name's Aaron Hayes, and if you'd asked me back in May what my plans were, I'd have mumbled something about community college in Omaha, maybe fixing trucks like my dad, or hell, just surviving another harvest season without losing my mind to the isolation. Dad, Tom Hayes, was the salt-of-the-earth type. Broad-shouldered farmer with grease under his nails and a laugh that boomed like thunder. But lately, that laugh had been scarce. Mom split when I was 10, chasing some dream in California that never panned out, leaving us to rattle around our old clapboard house like ghosts in our own lives. Dad buried himself in the fields, and I buried myself in books, video games, anything to drown out the quiet that pressed in like fog. That's where Caleb came in. Caleb Whitaker, Dad's old buddy from the service, both of them Vietnam vets who'd bonded over foxholes and bad decisions. Caleb was the wild one, the charmer who'd talk your ear off about his glory days in Nam, or the time he outran a twister on his Harley. He was pushing 45, with salt and pepper hair cropped close, a jaw like carved granite, and eyes the color of storm clouds that seemed to see right through you. Divorced twice, no kids, he lived in a trailer on the edge of town, fixing up junkers for cash and showing up at our place unannounced with a six-pack and stories that made Dad light up like it was Christmas. It started innocent enough. Caleb would swing by after supper, the three of us grilling burgers on the back porch while the sun bled orange over the horizon. I'd linger in the kitchen, pretending to wash dishes, but really stealing glances at him. How his flannel shirt stretched across his shoulders when he laughed, the way his forearms flexed as he cracked open a beer. I didn't know what it meant then, this pull in my gut, this heat that flushed my cheeks whenever he'd ruffle my hair and call me kid in that gravelly drawl. I'd always been the quiet type, more at home with my sketchpad than the football jocks at school. But there were whispers, kids shoving me in the halls calling me fairy, after they caught me staring too long at Jake Riley in gym class. I shoved it down, told myself it was nothing, just hormones or boredom. But Caleb saw me, not like Dad did with that proud but distant nod, but really saw. One night in June, after Dad had passed out on the couch mid-story, Caleb found me out back, staring at the stars with a cigarette I'd bummed from his pack. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world, Aaron," he said, settling beside me on the porch step, close enough that I could smell his aftershave. Pine and leather, mixed with the faint tang of motor oil. I shrugged, mumbled something about graduation stress, but he didn't buy it. "Your old man's tough as nails, but he ain't much for talkin'. If you need an ear, I'm here." His knee brushed mine accidental-like, but neither of us moved. That night, I lay awake, heart pounding, imagining what it would be like if he meant more than he said. The weeks blurred into a rhythm. Dad in the fields by dawn, me tinkering in the garage, Caleb drifting in like a shadow I couldn't shake. He'd bring me tools from his shop, show me how to weld a fender straight, his hands guiding mine over the hot metal, breath warm on my neck. "Steady now, kid. Feel that? That's control." I'd nod, throat dry, pretending it was the heat making me sweat. Dad noticed, in his way, grunted approval when Caleb praised my work ethic, clapped me on the back for finally actin' like a man. If only he knew the thoughts racing through my head, the dreams where Caleb's hands didn't stop at the wrench. It was mid-July when things tipped. A heat wave had the whole county wilting, the air thick as soup, and Dad's old Ford pickup threw a rod on the way back from town. Caleb offered to tow it to his place, a rambling spread on the outskirts with a barn bigger than our house. Aaron, come help, Dad said, wiping sweat from his brow. Learn something useful. So I went, riding shotgun in Caleb's beat-up Chevy, the windows down and classic rock blasting. Springsteen wailing about highways and broken dreams. Caleb glanced at me sidelong, that half-smile playing on his lips. Your dad's lucky to have you, you know. Good bones, solid heart. We got the truck in the barn, tools scattered like shrapnel, and Dad headed inside for a cold one, leaving us to it. That's when the hook sank in deep. Caleb straightened from under the hood, grease-streaked and shirtless in the swelter, his chest rising and falling with effort. I froze, rag in hand, staring like an idiot. He caught my eye, held it, and the air crackled. What are you looking at, Aaron? Not angry, curious, almost teasing. I stammered, face burning, but he stepped closer, close enough to touch. It's okay, he murmured. I see it too. That was the first kiss. Not the barn one. Not yet. But in the dim garage light, his lips soft against mine, tentative at first, then urgent, like he'd been holding back a dam. My world tilted. Hands fisting in his hair, tasting salt and want, the thrill of it terrifying and electric. We broke apart gasping, eyes wide, and he pulled back like I'd burned him. Shit, kid. We can't. This ain't right. But his voice cracked, and I knew he felt it too. This thing blooming wild and wrong in the space between us. From there, it was stolen moments. A brush of fingers in the kitchen while Dad's back was turned. Late-night texts that lit up my phone like fireflies. Miss that smile of yours. Stay safe. I'd lie in bed, tracing the words, heart a drumbeat, terrified of what came next but craving it all the same. Caleb opened up slow, over beers in his trailer. The ex-wives who couldn't handle his demons. The nightmares from Nam that left him soaked in sweat. The loneliness that gnawed like rust. I ain't good for nobody, Aaron. Especially not you. But he'd pull me close anyway. Kisses turning to more. Hands exploring in the dark. Bodies pressing together with a desperation that felt like drowning and flying at once. I fell hard, stupidly, completely. Told myself it was love. This raw connection that made the world sharp and alive. Caleb was my anchor in the storm of small-town suffocation. The one who saw the artist in me, not just the farmer's son. He'd watch me sketch the fields at sunset, his chin on my shoulder, whispering, "You're going places, kid. Don't let this dirt hold you back." And for the first time, I believed it. But secrets have a way of festering. Dad started noticing the late nights, the way Caleb's truck lingered too long in our drive. "You two gettin' thick as thieves," he'd say, half joking, but his eyes narrowed. I brushed it off, but guilt coiled in my gut like barbed wire. Then came the betrayal, not Caleb's, not at first, but mine, in the form of a slip-up. August rolled in with thunderstorms that shook the house, and one night, after Dad crashed early, Caleb snuck over. We tumbled into the barn behind the house, the same one that would become our undoing. Hayloft creaking under our weight, his body over mine, urgent and fierce. "God, Aaron, you undo me," he groaned, and I lost myself in him. In us, the rain hammering like applause. Morning light found us tangled, his arm heavy across my waist. But reality crashed in with Dad's bellow from the yard. "Aaron, get your ass down here." We scrambled, hearts pounding, but not fast enough. Dad stood at the barn door, face ashen, shotgun in hand. Not raised, but there, a promise of violence. "What the fuck is this?" His voice broke on the words, eyes flicking from me to Caleb, betrayal carving lines deep as plow furrows. Caleb bolted upright, yanking on jeans, stammering apologies that fell flat. "Tom, it ain't. It's not what." But Dad wasn't hearing it. "You son of a bitch. My best friend? With my boy." The slap came quick, Dad's fist connecting with Caleb's jaw, sending him sprawling into the dirt. I lunged between them, screaming, "Dad, stop. It's me. It's my fault." But he shoved me aside, eyes wild with hurt, the kind that festers into hate. "Get out. Both of you. Now." Caleb left that day, trailer hitched to his truck, dust clouds swallowing him whole. Dad and I circled each other like strangers, words sharp as shards. Accusations, tears, silences that stretched like the plains. "You're my son," he'd rasp, voice cracking. "How could you throw it away like this?" I wanted to scream that it wasn't thrown away, that love didn't work like that Caleb had cracked me open to who I really was. But the words stuck, choked by shame and fear. Weeks passed in a haze. I applied to art school in Chicago on a whim, packing bags while Dad pretended not to notice. Letters from Caleb came, scribbled notes shoved under the door. "I'm sorry. I never meant to break your world. But I'd do it again for one more night with you." I burned them, then regretted it, ashes like the hollow in my chest. Dad softened, in fits, a gruff "proud of you," when I got accepted. A beer shared on the porch where he admitted, "I lost my way once too, son, after your mom. Just don't let it define you." The climax hit in October, leaves turning blood red, when Caleb rolled back into town like a ghost. Word spread fast. Bar fights, a wrecked bike, and Dad cornered me one night, face grim. "He's a skin for you. Says he needs to make it right." I drove to the old barn on his property, the one we towed the truck to, hard a war drum. He was there, silhouetted against the sunset, bruised and broken, nursing a bottle. "Aaron," he breathed, like a prayer, and I hated how much I still wanted him. We talked or fought, really, words tumbling out like floodwater. "You left me," I accused, tears hot. "After everything." He hung his head. "Couldn't face what I did to Tom. To you. I'm poison, kid, always have been." But when I turned to leave, he grabbed my arm, pulled me close, and the dam broke again. Kisses fierce with goodbye, hands clutching like lifelines. "I love you," he whispered. First time he'd said it plain. "Always will." That's when Dad appeared, truck lights cutting the dusk like judgment. No shotgun this time, just him, weary and raw. "Enough," he said, voice steady. We froze, Caleb's hand still on my cheek. Dad looked between us, the weight of years in his eyes. "I ain't losing another piece of my family to pride or pain. Caleb, you broke my trust. Aaron, you broke my heart. But running won't fix it." What happened next? Not the fairy tale, not the tragedy. Dad lowered his head, muttered, "Get your shit together, both of you," and walked away. Caleb and I stood there, tangled in the fading light, realizing the real betrayal wasn't the kiss or the leaving. It was thinking love could be hidden, or owned, or destroyed. We didn't rush back together. Healing took time, therapy in Omaha, awkward family dinners where Dad learned my name for the first time without flinching. By spring, I was in Chicago, sketching cityscapes that bled with memory, Caleb's letters now emails, steady, hopeful. Dad visited once, the three of us at a diner, burgers half-eaten, talking nom and art like old wounds scarring over. It wasn't perfect, this fragile piece, but it was human. Flawed, forgiving, alive. And in the quiet moments, when the skyline blurred with tears, I'd think of that barn. Not as ruin, but redemption. Love, it turns out, isn't the spark that burns it all down. It's the ash that feeds new growth. The city hit me like a freight train. Chicago's horns blaring, sidewalks crammed with strangers who didn't give a damn about your backstory, and the lake wind whipping off Michigan Avenue sharp enough to slice through the ghosts I dragged from Nebraska. I'd arrived in late fall, duffel bag slung over one shoulder, sketchpad clutched like a shield, the scholarship letter from the School of the Art Institute burning a hole in my pocket. Dad had driven me to the bus station, our goodbye a stiff hug and a mumbled, "Call your old man." His eyes avoiding mine as if looking too long might crack the fragile truce we'd forged in that barn. Caleb hadn't come. He'd sent a text instead. "Proud of you, kid. Right when you land." Simple words, but they anchored me through the Greyhound's rattle, the miles blurring fields into steel. My dorm was a shoebox in the loop, walls thin as paper, roommates a rotating cast of insomniacs and dreamers. Javier, a sculptor from LA with tattoos like living murals, and Lena, a painter from Detroit who chain-smoked on the fire escape and quoted Ginsberg at breakfast. They pulled me in quick. Late-night diner runs for greasy eggs. Critiques over lukewarm beer where I'd spill ink on Urban Decay sketches, hiding the rural roots that still bled through. "Man, you've got that heartland melancholy down," Javier said once, eyeing a charcoal of endless cornrows under storm clouds. "Like Hopper, but hornier." I laughed, but it stung. Every line carried Caleb's shadow, the curve of his jaw in the negative space, the weight of his hand unspoken. Classes were salvation and torture. Life drawing with nude models who posed like gods under fluorescent glare. Color theory where primaries clashed like emotions I couldn't name. Professor Hale, a wiry woman with silver streaks and a voice like smoked whiskey, zeroed in on me day one. "Hayes, your work screams repression. Dig deeper or don't bother showing up." So I did, staying late in the studio, charcoal dust coating my fingers as I exorcised the barn. Hayloft shadows twisting into lovers' limbs, red paint dripping like blood from betrayal's wound. It poured out. The hook of that first kiss in the garage, the electric terror of bodies colliding, Dad's face crumpling like wet paper. Art became confession, raw and unfiltered, and slowly, the knot in my chest loosened. But Caleb lingered, a specter in every quiet hour. Emails turned to calls, his voice crackling over spotty lines, gravelly with that Nebraska drawl. "How's the big city treating you? Seeing any trouble?" I'd laugh. Tell him about the L Train Symphony, the drag shows in Boys Town where queens and sequins own the night. "Sounds like freedom," he'd say, soft, and I'd hear the ache. The trailer empty now, his shop busier but lonelier. He confessed more in those talks. The VA shrink diagnosing his nightmares as PTSD, the ex who'd called him broken before bolting. "You make me want to be whole, Aaron. That's the scary part." I'd curl on my bunk, phone hot against my ear, whispering back promises I wasn't sure I could keep. Distance sharpened the longing. I'd wake hard and aching from dreams of his mouth, his hands, the barn's musk clinging like sin. Thanksgiving loomed like a storm front. Invites from Javier's family in Pilsen fizzled. Too broke for the flight, and Lena's folks wanted the straight one. A joke that landed like a gut punch. Dad called midweek. "Doors open if you want it." Neutral progress from the silence of summer. But Caleb's text sealed it. "Come home. We need to talk for real." Heart hammering, I booked the bus, the pull of planes irresistible. Omaha's chill bit deeper than Chicago's, frost glazing the fields as I hitched a ride back to town. Dad met me at the station, truck idling, his nod warmer than last time. "Lookin' city," he grunted, eyeing my beanie and scuffed boots. Dinner was pot roast and small talk. Harvest yields, my grades, until the silence thickened. "Heard Caleb's been clean," Dad said finally, forking potatoes. "No more benders. Fixed up that old Mustang for the county fair." My throat tightened. I nodded, words failing. Caleb waited on our porch that night, silhouetted by the yard light, hands shoved in jacket pockets. Dad clapped my shoulder. "Be smart," and left us to it. The air hummed with unsaid things, frost crunching underfoot as we walked to the barn, its silhouette a bruise against the stars. "Missed you," he said simply, pulling me into the shadows, lips finding mine with a hunger that stole breath. It was different now, surer, slower, his fingers tracing my jaw like memorizing a map. We didn't rush to the loft. Instead, we talked, leaning against the weathered wall, breath fogging in the cold. He'd started group at the VFW, sharing stories that peeled him raw. "Told him about you," he admitted, voice low. "Not the us part, but how a kid made me see I could fight for more than survival." Tears pricked my eyes. I told him about the city, the sketches, the fear that I'd outgrow him. "You won't," he vowed, hand cupping my neck. "I'll follow if you let me." We made love there, deliberate and tender, the barn no longer a site of fracture but mending. His body over mine on a blanket of old tarps, whispers mingling with wind through the cracks. Dad knew, of course. Found us asleep at dawn, coffee in hand, his shadow long across the floor. No rage this time, just a sigh heavy as harvest. "Breakfast's on," he said, turning away. It was his olive branch, grudging but real. Over eggs, he cleared his throat. I read something in the paper. About folks like you. Marches in San Francisco. Awkward, halting, but he tried. Ain't saying I get it. But you're my boy. That's enough. The betrayal came later, insidious as winter's creep. Back in Chicago, a package arrived. Sketches I'd left in the barn. Now framed. Anonymous sender. Javier whistled. Secret admirer? But the note inside, scrawled in Caleb's hand. For your walls. Remember us. It warmed me until the calls stopped. Weeks of radio silence. My texts echoing into void. Panic set in, voicemails pleading, what's wrong? Talk to me. Finally, a letter, postmarked Nebraska. Found out I'm sick. Cancer, lungs from the smoke in Nam. Don't come back. Live your life. The world grade. I dropped everything. Classes, shifts at the coffee shop. Booked the bus again. Storm raging outside the window like my thoughts. Dad met me at the farm, face line deeper. He told me not to say, he admitted, driving to Caleb's trailer. Stubborn bastard. Inside, it smelled of him, oil and pine. But he was frail, cheeks hollow, eyes dimmed. Aaron, he rasped from the sagging couch. Shouldn't be here. I knelt, took his hand, the betrayal twisting. Not his hiding, but fate's cruelty. You don't get to decide that. I choked, tears spilling. We held on, talking through the night. Regrets, dreams deferred. The love that had bloomed fierce and fleeting. Dad brought soup, sat silent sentinel. His presence a bridge over the chasm. We're in this, he said quietly, hand on my shoulder. All of us. Climax built slow, then shattered. Doctors in Omaha confirmed stage 3. Chemo a gauntlet Caleb dreaded. Ain't going out weak, he growled. But fear leaked through. I stayed weekends, sketching him. Strong lines softening to vulnerability. While Dad handled the fields, his gruff care a revelation. One night, as snow blanketed the world white, Caleb pulled me close in his bed. Body heat a fragile fire. If I beat this, he whispered. Chicago. You and me. I nodded, throat tight, knowing odds but clinging to hope. Betrayal's echo faded into resolve. We fought, fists clenched against the invisible foe. Nights of vomit buckets and quiet encouragements. Dad's truck idling outside like a guard. Art school blurred. I painted their portraits, intertwined, raw emotion in every stroke. Hale saw the shift. Now you're creating, Hayes, from the gut. Spring thawed the ground, and with it scans showed shrinkage. Not cure, but chance. Caleb stood taller, color returning. His kiss in the hospital lot tasting of rebirth. Told you I'd follow. He grinned, weak but wicked. Dad hugged him awkward at the diner. First time. Muttering, don't fuck it up again. Laughter bubbled, healing the scars. Back in the city, Caleb crashed on my dorm floor, Javier dubbing him the cowboy, Lena flirting shamelessly. He fixed bikes for cash, enrolled in community college for mechanic certs. Our nights tangled in the twin bed, love steadier now, tempered by fire. Dad visited in summer, the 4 of us at Wrigley, hot dogs and cheers masking the men's. Family's what you build, he said once, eyes on the field. Not blood alone. The barn memory lingered, not as wound but wisdom. Love demands courage, betrayal tests it, but humanity, flawed, forgiving, endures. In Chicago's roar, with Caleb's hand in mine, I sketched forward, lines bold with possibility. Summer in the city was a beast. Humid haze turning the loop into a pressure cooker, tourists clogging the streets like clots in an artery, and me, Aaron Hayes, navigating it all with a sketchpad perpetually smudged and a boyfriend who still smelled faintly of Nebraska soil. Caleb had settled in unevenly, his trailer's worth of tools crammed into a rented storage unit. His days split between gig work at a North Side garage and night classes at Harold Washington College. Feels like boot camp, but with less yelling. He'd joke over takeout Thai, but I saw the strain. The way his shoulders tensed at crowded L stops, the nightmares that jerked him awake. murmuring jungle ghosts. Chemo's shadow hung, checkups a monthly ritual, but remissions held, fragile as eggshell. Our rhythm was new, intoxicating. Mornings, I'd wake to his coffee brewing. Black as tar, 2 sugars. His lips brushing my temple before he headed out. Afternoons, I'd drag him to the Art Institute, wandering galleries hand in hidden hand. His rough palm a talisman against the masterpieces. "That Monet's got nothing on your fields," he'd say, nodding at water lilies that swirled like fever dreams. He'd linger at the American wing, eyes on Grant Wood's Pitchfork Man, whispering, "Reminds me of your dad, stoic as hell." Laughter would bubble, "Easy now." The betrayal's bite dulled to a scar we traced together. But conflict brewed under the surface, insidious as the heat. My world expanded, critiques with hail turning into mentorship, invitations to queer art collectives in Wicker Park where twinks and dykes dissected identity over cheap wine. Caleb tagged along once, his flannel out of place amid skinny jeans and ironic tees, nursing a soda while I networked. "Proud of you, kid," he said later, but his grip tightened on the walk home, jaw set. "Just don't forget the simple stuff." I nodded, but the divide yawned. My sketches evolving abstract, urban pulses in acrylic, while his stories stayed rooted, tractors and twisters, the farm's unyielding pull. Dad's calls anchored us, bi-weekly check-ins laced with farm updates and veiled advice. "Your boy's fixin' my combine next visit," he'd grunt, warming to Caleb in increments. Their bond mended slow. Shared smokes on the porch, Tom admitting losses from the war, Caleb nodding, "We carry what we can." It humanized them. 2 vets forging peace through my fractured heart. But whispers from home crept in, town gossips sniffing at that city phase. Dad's old poker buddies side-eyeing his softened stance. "You holdin' up?" I'd ask, and he'd blow it off. "Ain't there circus?" The real storm hit in August, a gallery show at school. My first, Fractured Plains. Pieces born of barn and betrayal. Invites went out. Dad RSVP'd with a gruff, "If I can swing the drive." Javier hyped it like a rock concert. Lena curated the wine. Caleb promised to wear something fancy, raiding thrift stores for a button-down that hugged his frame just right. Opening night buzzed, red dots multiplying on price tags, hail toasting my visceral honesty. Strangers murmuring over the central piece. A massive canvas of the barn door ajar, light spilling like confession, 2 silhouettes blurred in embrace. He arrived late, hair damp from a downpour, eyes scanning the crowd until they locked on mine. "Stunning," he breathed, pulling me into an alcove, kiss salty with rain. But as the night wore on, I caught the shift. His stance rigid beside the Hopper-inspired field scene, where isolation bled queer undertones. A curator, lithe, bearded, all Brooklyn vowels, sidled up, gushing. "The homoerotic tension here? Revolutionary for Midwestern grit." Caleb's laugh was tight. He excused himself to the bar, returning with whiskey breath. We walked home through puddles, the high fading into tension. "That guy was fucking your work. And you," he muttered, shoulders hunched. I stopped under a street lamp, frustration flaring. "It's art, Caleb, not a threat." His eyes flashed, old demons rising. "Feels like one. The city's changing you, Aaron. Making you distant." The accusation landed like a slap, echoing the barn's echo. Fear of loss, twisted into blame. Fight spilled out raw. Me accusing him of small-town chains, him hurling my fancy friends like barbs. "You think I don't see it? The way you light up without me." Voice cracking, he turned away, rain mixing with tears. I grabbed his arm. "You're it for me, you idiot." But he shrugged free, storming to the L alone in the downpour. Sketchpad sodden, betrayal's ghost reared. Not his leaving, but the doubt it planted, the fear we'd built on sand. Reconciliation came halting. Days of silence, my texts unanswered, until Dad called, visiting, as promised. He found me hollow-eyed in the dorm, Caleb holed up at a motel. "Talk to him, son," Dad urged over diner pie. "Pride'll kill what love saves." Emboldened, I tracked Caleb to the garage, Grease Monkey Haven smelling of rubber and regret. He looked up from a carburetor, wrench pausing. Go away, Aaron. I ain't ready. But I didn't. Sat on an oil drum, spilling guts. The terror of losing him to cancer or distance. How the show bared my soul for validation I craved. You're my route, Caleb. City or plains. He deflated, tool clattering, pulling me into a hug that smelled of home. Scared shitless you'll wake up and see I'm just the hick who wrecked your family. Kisses followed, fervent under fluorescence, bodies reaffirming what words fumbled. Dad's visit bridged more. We three toured the gallery, Tom in plaid, gaping at abstracts like alien artifacts. That's us? He asked at the barn piece, finger tracing the light. Caleb nodded, throat bobbing. Yeah, the mess and the mend. Over beers at a dive, stories flowed. Dad recounting a nom-letter home, Caleb admitting his first crush, a bunkmate lost to shrapnel. Vulnerability cracked them open, laughter sealing the fissures. You too? Dad chuckled, raising his glass. Gonna give me gray hairs yet? Fall semester reignited, but with ballast. Caleb joined a vet art group, his crude drawings of foxholes evolving beside my polish. Collabs born in our shoebox apartment, now sublet together. Rent scraped by on shifts and grants. Nights tangled in thrift sheets. Love's drama mellowing to romance's hum. But conflict simmered. A job offer for him in Omaha, steady pay at a dealership. Closer to your dad, he argued, eyes hopeful. I wavered, Chicago's pulse my muse, but roots tugging. Climax crested at winter break. Home for Christmas. Snow blanketing the farm like forgiveness. We gathered. Trees strung with popcorn. Mom even calling long distance, voice tentative. Dad pulled us aside post-dinner, fire crackling. Heard about the job, he said to Caleb. Good for you. But don't take my boy. Tension spiked. Caleb's face falling, my hand squeezing his. It's our call, Dad. Silence stretched, then Tom sighed. Damn right. Just stay whole. The betrayal twist? Not family, but self. My doubt flaring, accusing Caleb of anchoring me down. Fight erupted in the barn. Snow drifting through eaves. You want the city lights more than me, he roared, hurt raw. I shoved back. And you want the easy out. Punches withheld, but words lacerated. Him storming into the night. Me collapsing in hay, sobs echoing. Dawn brought clarity. Dad found me, offered a flask. Love's a battlefield, son. Learned that twice over. Caleb returned by noon, frostbitten and furious, but we talked. Really talked. Under the rafters, admitting fears. His of abandonment, mine of stagnation. Chicago, then, he conceded, kissing my knuckles. We'll make it ours. Back north. Resolution bloomed humanistic. Compromises stacked like cordwood. He commuted weekends to Dad. I sketched rural commissions mailed cityward. Art show 2 sold out. Buyers drawn to our joint Echoes series. Planes meeting Metropolis in layered oils. Dad visited opening. Bought the barn redux. Hung it in the living room. Reminds me we're all a little cracked. In bed that night, Caleb's breath steady against my neck. I traced his scars, wars, cancers, ours. Love wasn't the hook or the hurt. It was the weave, threads of conflict knotted into tapestry. Human, messy, enduring. By sophomore spring, the grind had worn grooves into our lives. Me deep in thesis sketches for a queer identity series. Caleb elbow deep in engines at a Lincoln Park shop that paid enough for our walk-up in Ukrainian village, where pierogies sizzled from downstairs and the L rumbled like a lullaby. We'd carved a home. His tools on the fire escape, my canvases leaning like dominoes, nights alternating between Springsteen vinyls and my indie playlists, his twang harmonizing off-key with Phoebe Bridgers. Remission held steady, checkups ticking off like victories, but the undercurrent of conflict never fully ebbed. Small eddies of doubt swirling in quiet moments, betrayals of the mind whispering what if. The high came unbidden. A residency offer from the McDowell Colony in New Hampshire. 2 months of solitude and stipend to chase my voice. Hale pushed it. Go Hayes. Evolve. And Caleb beamed over tie delivery. That's my artist. I'll hold the fort. But as packing loomed, fissures showed. His shifts stretched, overtime luring with promises of savings for someday. A house. Maybe. Rings unspoken. Don't burn out. He'd text from under hoods. But I heard the tether. Stay grounded. Don't fly too far. I left in June, foliage unfurling green as envy. The colony a utopia of cabins amid woods. Peers from coasts and heartlands. Critiques in sun-dappled studios. Nights of bonfires where stories spilled like sparks. Inspiration flooded. Hikes birthing landscapes laced with longing. Figures entwined in birch shadows echoing Caleb's form. Letters flew. His filled with shop drama. A stray cat he'd named Trouble. Mine bursting with epiphanies on isolation's edge. Miss your laugh, he'd write, and I'd ache, sketching his face from memory, lines softening with distance. But paradise cracked mid-July. A fellow resident, Eli, sculptor from Brooklyn, all lean muscle and ironic smiles, gravitated close. Shared studio time turned to trail runs, his energy a mirror to my fire. Talks of Warhol's queerness, bodies brushing in the darkroom's red glow. It started innocent. A hand on my back during a laugh, a joint passed under stars. But the pull tugged, betrayal's seeds sprouting in fertile soil. Just friendship, I lied to myself. But guilt gnawed as Eli's gaze lingered, propositions veiled in art speak. Your tension begs release. Caleb's calls anchored, voice tinny over spotty signal. Sounds intense. You okay? I'd affirm, heart pounding, omitting the flirtations that flushed my cheeks. One night, post Eli's confession, I've felt it since day one. I cracked, dialing home drunk on cheap Merlot. I kissed him, spilled out, sobs hitching. Silence stretched eternal. Then his whisper, come home, Aaron. We fixed this. No anger, just hurt. Deep, resonant, the kind that echoes old wounds. Bus ride back was purgatory. Forests blurring to recriminations. Caleb met me at Union Station, arms open despite the red rims of his eyes, pulling me into a cab without a word. Our apartment felt smaller, air thick with unspoken. Over cold pizza, truth unraveled. My fear of complacency, the residency's isolation amplifying doubts. What if we're holding each other back? His confession followed, raw. A bar pickup attempted post-call, rebuffed but the intent a knife. Wanted to hurt you like I was hootin'. Betrayal mutual, mirrors shattering illusions of perfection. Fight raged verbal, furniture shoved aside, accusations flying. You think I'm a phase? You're runnin' scared. Bodies collided not in passion but fury, until exhaustion dropped us to the floor, backs against couch, hands finding each other in the wreckage. I love you, I gasped. But I'm terrified. He nodded, tears tracking grease smudges. Me too. Cancer taught me nothing's promised. But quit tin? That's the real betrayal. Dawn brought fragile peace. We called Dad. First time for such depths. His voice steady over speaker. You boys been through hell. Lean on each other, not against. Wisdom hard won, from a man who'd learned forgiveness in foxholes and family. Therapy followed, couple sessions in a Wicker Park walk-in, where a soft-spoken shrink unpacked our patterns. Caleb's abandonment scars, my artist's wanderlust. Conflict isn't the enemy, she said. It's the forge. Residency ended in triumph. My series Tethers, selected for a fall exhibit. Eli's note, a gracious proud of your honesty. Caleb attended opening, suit rumpled but eyes proud, toasting with club soda. To us, tangled and true. Dad flew in, gawking at the crowd, buying a piece of shadowed lovers. Looks like you two after a row. Laughter healed. The galleries hum a symphony of survival. But climax loomed larger, autumn's chill heralding crisis. Caleb's cough returned, dry, insistent, dismissed as allergies until a checkup revealed recurrence. Aggressive spread to bones. World tilted. Scans, specialists. The oncology ward's sterile hum a slap to our fragile normal. Fuck! he rasped. For dripping poison that promised fight. Betrayal now fates, why us again? But resolve hardened. I deferred thesis, sketching at his bedside. Portraits of grit, his hand in mine immortalized in graphite. Dad arrived unbidden, truck parked curbside, bearing coolers of home-cooked roasts. Ain't lettin' you fight alone, he declared, bunking on our pullout, his presence a bulwark. Nights blurred, chemo fog, Caleb's delirium muttering my name, my vigil with sketchpad as talisman. Conflict arose internal. Guilt for resenting the drain, fear of widowhood at 20. What if I lose you? I confessed one dawn, head on his chest. Then you live loud, he murmured, fingers in my hair. For both of us. Human moments pierced the haze. Dad and Caleb bonding over baseball on the ward TV. Tom's gruff jokes coaxing laughs from hollow cheeks. Remember that twister? Dad said, and Caleb wheezed. You ran like a girl. Tears mixed with mirth. Family redefined in beeps and bandages. I painted murals on the apartment walls. Planes meeting skyline. Figures intertwined, art as armor. Winter solstice marked nadir. Fever spiking. Caleb hallucinating jungles. Me screaming at nurses for more morphine. Dad held me in the hall, his flannel damp with my sobs. He's a fighter, son, like his old man. Betrayal's sting? My own weakness crumbling when he needed steel. But dawn broke. Fever cracked, vitals stabilizing. Docs murmuring miracle responder. Spring's thaw mirrored recovery. Scans shrank tumors, Caleb walking laps in rehab, his grip regaining strength. Told you I'd stick, he grinned. First real smile in months. We moved slower, therapy doubles, art as co-therapy. Love deepened by trial, romantic in resilience. Dad stayed through bloom, planting a garden on our fire escape. Roots wherever. His goodbye hug lingered. You made me better, Aaron. Both of you. Back to canvas and carburetors. We wove forward. Exhibit tours for tethers. Caleb's shop tales laced with pride. One night, under city stars, he knelt. Ring simple, silver band etched with barn slats. Marry me? Mess and all. Tears yes, the kiss sealing vows unspoken. Humanism prevailed. Not flawless, but full. Love's drama a teacher. Betrayal's lessons in grace. In our village nook, with Dad's visits and canvases blooming, we thrived. Tethered. Free. Marriage in the Midwest meant compromise from the jump. A small ceremony at the farm, June sun gilding the fields, because Caleb insisted on roots under our feet, while I pushed for Chicago flair with Javier officiating in a sequined vest. Dad walked me down the makeshift aisle between hay bales, his eyes suspiciously bright, arms steady as we approached the arch of wildflowers Lena had wrangled. Proud, he whispered, squeezing my hand before stepping back, leaving me to Caleb, resplendent in a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to forearms veined with life. Vows we wrote ourselves, mine promising to sketch our storms into sunrises, his vowing to fix what's broken, always starting with us. Rings exchanged, kiss sealing it amid whoops. Javier's flamboyant, Dad's understated clap, the air electric with hard-won joy. Honeymoon was a road trip, his Harley purring west to the Badlands. Tents pitched under starfields vast as memory. Nights by campfire, bodies close against chill, we unpacked the weight. Cancer's shadow receding but etched, the barn's echo a foundation stone. Think we'll make it? I'd murmur, head on his chest. Hell, we've survived worse, he'd rumble, fingers tracing my ring. Romance bloomed quiet, diner pancakes at dawn, sketches of him silhouetted against canyons. Love's drama mellowed to deep current. Back home, rhythms solidified. My senior show prepped in fevered strokes, unbroken lines, weaving our saga, betrayals as bold reds, remissions in golden glows. Caleb thrived at the shop, mentoring apprentices with vet grit. His drawings now exhibited beside mine in local cafes. Dad visited monthly, truck laden with produce, our kitchen a hub of stories. Tom's tales of county fairs, Caleb's of city mishaps, my bridges between. Family's a verb, Dad said once, over ribs, and we nodded, the word encompassing blood and chosen. But climax's embers flared autumnal. A National Gallery scout spotted Unbroken, offering a solo in New York, prime spot, career rocket. Elation crashed into conflict. Caleb's job rooted here, our life a delicate weave. Go, he urged, but eyes shadowed doubt. Can't uproot again. Fights reignited me accusing stasis, him fearing drift. You chased Eli once, he hurled, old wound reopened. This is art, not a fair. I shot back, storming to the studio, canvas slashed in rage. Betrayal's fresh cut. My resentment, his insecurity, threatening the vows we'd sworn. Dad mediated over emergency call. Talk it through, like we learned. Weekend retreat to the farm clarified. Barn visit at dusk. Hay scent stirring ghosts. I almost lost you to sickness, Caleb confessed, voice breaking. Now to success? I knelt, tears soaking his shirt. Never. You're my horizon. Compromise forged. Show in winter, him joining for a month. Sublet in Brooklyn, our bridge. New York dazzled. Galleries humming, critics lauding. Hayes humanistic queer pastoral. Collectors snapping pieces. Caleb navigated awkward, his drawl charming curators. But nights in our tiny Airbnb, he'd pace. Feels like Int Rudin. Reassurance came, physical bodies reaffirming in narrow bed. Love's romance a bomb. Dad FaceTimed from the farm. Kick ass, boys. Sent pie for luck. Exhibit opening peaked. Red carpet nerves, flashbulbs popping. Caleb's hand in mine as applause swelled. A buyer snagged the barn centerpiece. Irony sweet. Whispering, this captures redemption raw. Return to Chicago grounded us. Successes glow tempered by routine. Senior year capped with honors. My degree framed beside his cert. Apartment walls a gallery of us. Cancer's 5-year mark passed unmarked but monumental. Cheers over beer. Dad toasting to fighters. Romance deepened. Lazy Sundays sketching his sleep-slack face. His massages easing my carpal strains. Whispers of future. Kids maybe, via surrogate. A house with a shop garage hybrid. Yet humanism's core tested final. Dad's diagnosis, prostate creeping slow. Irony bit, our turn as anchors. Caleb drove the halls, me sketching his bedside portraits. Role reversal, a quiet profundity. Full circle, Dad rasped, gripping our hands. You saved me first. Treatment ground on, remissions mirroring Caleb's, family a fortress. Javier's care packages, Lena's playlists, our vigil unwavering. Spring brought stability. Dad's scans clear, our lives a tapestry rich. We bought the house. Ukrainian village Victorian. Garden echoing his fire escape plot. Studio in the attic. Wedding anniversary marked with barn pilgrimage. Nebraska dusk. Picnic under stars. Lovemaking slow as vows renewed. What happened next? Caleb murmured, echoing the hook that started us. This, I replied, heart full. Us unbroken. Years folded forward. My teaching gig at SAIC, Caleb's shop expanding to vet hires, Dad retiring to our guest room post-harvests. Kids came, twin boys via donor, adopted at birth, their giggles filling halls with chaos and light. Little artists or grease monkeys? Caleb teased, bouncing them on knees scarred by life. I'd sketch the quartet. Family portraits pulsing emotion, exhibited in biennales, humanism's testament. Old age crept gentle. Dad's stories to grandkids by fire pit, Caleb's hair silver as mine, our hands gnarled but linked. Final betrayal? Time's theft, but we met it romantic. Travels to Nam memorials, his closure in jungles tamed. My sketches chronicling peace. On our farm porch, rockers creaking. He'd pull me close. Never saw this coming. I'd smile, lips brushing his. Best surprise. Ending humanistic. Not tragedy's veil, nor fairy's gloss, but life's weave. Conflicts conquered, betrayals to bonds. Love aflame fed by all. In Nebraska's hush, with barn looming benevolent, we endured dramatic, emotional, eternally ours.